Hey, everybody. Okay, I'll just kind of hold on for a minute, let people jump on, and see if I can make my screen a little bit bigger here. My dog's acting kind of rambunctious. She's over here. I don't know if you can see her, but she keeps spotting things from outside the window. So I'm trying to get her to be good, but she may wreak havoc. So we'll have to see. Uh, okay, and we'll wait a few more seconds. I am so glad. Hey, everybody. Hannah, Miss Settle, Helen, Amy. Yay, I'm so glad you're here. I didn't do what I said I would last week, and supposed to be my shortest video. Instead, it was my longest. So kind of kind of embarrassed that I couldn't seem to squash that time together. I am going to be really strict again tonight with the part that is the finish up of this better alphabet picture. And then I'm going to kind of let you all guide me as to what time frame is good for the Q&A, because I also thought that maybe next week what I would do is have just the whole time as Q&A, so that we could get kind of caught up on that, and I don't have to take so much time out of what your Sunday night is. And then, of course, I know a lot of folks come and go, because I do that all the time, where you just keep coming back. So what I'll see is a huge jump in numbers later in that night from people that are kind of coming in and going out. And that's fine, because I'm going to try to always pack the content in about the first 15 minutes. So the rest is really Q&A if you're interested in getting that information. And that way you can always find what you're looking for, which should be the topic. Hey, Catherine, the topic of whatever the night is, by looking at those first 15 minutes. So at least I can keep it organized and structured that way for folks that do want to join, but then they don't maybe have the time to hang on and catch questions. But I always want to make sure I get to as many as I can, so that it's as interactive as it can be. So we'll just wait a couple more minutes. And as far as this week goes, if you got that newsletter, this is just kind of off the cuff here, but if you got that newsletter, I put a lot of the conferences where I'm going to be kind of coming and going over the next month or two. So I love to meet up with folks when I'm wherever I am. And I say this also for folks that come into the video on later or watch this after the fact. Between now and I guess I think I put conferences up there through March. If ever I'm going to be where you are planning on going, shoot me an email, especially at Title I. I know half the country seems to go to that one from everywhere. So let me know if you're going to be there. Just shoot me an email, or you could even just touch base with me on Facebook. But if you're going to be around, please, reach out. And then the only other thing that I put up there was if I'm at a school or a district, and it's in your neck of the woods, and it's something that you'd like to try to come to, even though it's not open to the public officially, you're always welcome to reach out and let me know if it's something that you or some team members might want to try to come to. And then I'll ask and see if you can sit in, because that's another really good way to get a little more meat than what we can usually do in conference. So we're going to go ahead and actually get started. And I am really, really, really grateful that those of you that are here. I wasn't really sure whether to stretch the better alphabet out into two sections, but I wanted to make sure that I hit a couple of things that usually get lost by the wayside. And I think they can cause some of the problems that I saw at least two posters last week mention, which were kids knowing the sounds, but not knowing what the letters look like, or not knowing the names, but knowing the sounds. And actually the names, that was a different conversation I had with another teacher who was using a different thing, but that was an interesting point I wanted to make. Usually, I think last week it was knowing the sounds and not knowing the letters by sight, or not being able to read or write with those letters, even though the kids seem to be able to sing the song. So what I really wanted to do was just hit on a couple of those key pieces, so that this can kind of be cataloged into those YouTube videos for folks that are using the Better Alphabet Song, but just need a little bit of troubleshooting help. And then while I'm doing this, please let me know if you have other things that you see, or other things that are troublesome that you deal with when you're trying to work with that Better Alphabet Song. It really is simple. The only thing that you want to keep in mind when you're doing it is that it is, hey Stacy, that it is not a song. It's not really a song. And I think that's where some extra support comes in. This was actually something I was considering spending more time on tonight, and then I decided I'm going to lump it together with the way to sing it and the research on why it's not a song. So I'm going to try to combine this together. But I think if there's ever any confusion with the Better Alphabet, it's because it's not a song. I even try not to call it the Better Alphabet Song sometimes, because I don't want it confused. Songs by default are processed in the back part of the brain, which means that when we talk about the brain develops back to front, the earlier developing centers in the brain, the more primitive areas of the brain, are also the areas that process pitch, rhythm, and intonation. So when we clap and the kids give us that back, or when we sing a song, like we talked about the 12 months of the year, or the days of the week, anytime we sing, we can have easier access, or our kids who are not developmentally necessarily aware can take in information very quickly when it's put together and captured in a song. Now, that's because the part of the brain that processes that or that takes that information in is more developed. It's the same reason the secrets work, which is that, the kids can go, and keep that in mind, but can't necessarily process what's on a workbook page 13 for our controlled vowels. So the same area that's our friend for secrets is our friend when we're singing a song. The problem is whatever is taken in that is repetitive pitch, rhythm, and intonation. Anytime content is encoded with pitch, rhythm, and intonation that's always the same, it's processed as a read-only disc. So the area of the brain that can take it in because there's no processing really required. There's no manipulation or understanding needed. Just like when kids go to show the sound for ER, UR, it doesn't mean they understand our controlled vowels. It doesn't even mean they're ready to attack a word or use it for spelling. It just means that they have access because it's stored back here in this earlier developing, less capable to manipulate area of the brain. So the same thing that lets it get in there fast is what actually makes it difficult for us to use once it's in there. Because what we can't do with a song is pull it apart, take out the information we want, and use it for our own purposes. And that's why, and I think I said this last week, when we're singing 12 months of the year or 7 days of the week, kids can't just say what comes before July. That's why when kids know that ERIRUR go, they can't just read necessarily the word to earn or see that that's how they spell the word bird. The crossover, the connection, the use or the manipulation aspect of it is limited when it's remaining in this earlier part of the brain, this earlier developing, less highly capable to manipulate and discern data. This part of the brain is not capable of doing what by default we want kids to be able to do with information, which is to use it. And if it's letters and sounds, to flip it, to flop it, to twist it, to turn it, to make new things out of it. So all of that to say, our worst enemy when it comes to a song is the fact that the brain wants to read it as a read-only disc, and it wants all the content glued together from beginning to end. But a song is also our best friend because a song is able to get through very quickly and be retained and easily retrieved by learners that know nothing, that have no background experience or very limited background experience, that don't necessarily understand the nature of what we're talking about, whether that be months of the year, or 50 nifty states, or the formula for the periodic table. All of the things that we can teach through song kind of go through the barrier, I guess, of how learners are different from high, medium, and low. We can teach kids in a classroom from the highest of the high to the lowest of the low to kids who speak no English. We can teach them a song and they can all sing it. So that's what makes songs our friend. But what makes them our enemy is the awareness that they have a limited capacity for use, which is why we cheat the brain. And that was really the title of tonight, which is cheating the brain. Not just cheating the brain by using muscle memory to grab those letter sounds, but cheating the brain by looking at it like a chess opponent and saying, okay, if I move this way, you're going to move this way. And I don't like it when you move this way because that ties my hands to do this, that, and the other. So I am not going to put myself in that position. I am going to actually do it this way so that it gives me some more wiggle room with what I need the brain to be able to do. So in a nutshell, what that means is the Better Alphabet song is not really a song because it's really 26 mini songs. Instead of singing it with a clear beginning and a clear end as an entire song, we start the pitches over again, or the little ditty over again on every single letter grouping. So that if a learner, almost every single letter grouping, there's like a little crossover with letters that can also say, and when I sing this, you'll hear how this works. But what this allows learners to do is tap right into the one that they can't remember when they're reading, when they're writing, grab the sound because it's going to come right off the top of their tongue without them even knowing what's about to pop out, and then use it, plug it in to read and write. So it's a great benefit to understand how the brain takes in a song or coded pitch, rhythm, and intonation, and then be able to take the good part out of that, but avoid the bad part. It's like when you cut a good steak, You want to take the good part, but you don't want the gristle and the fat and the bone. Same idea. We want all of the values scraped out of how the brain processes the music, but we want none of the downside, which is that our hands are tied and it's of limited use to kids. And really, in a nutshell, this is why that alphabet song, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. That's why it's such a waste of time because kids can't do anything with it. And kids who don't even know what an L, an M, and an O or a P are can sing that song and think L, M, and O is one letter. So, as teachers, we know that the crossover of application of those letter sound skills are non existent when you're teaching that song, but that's the reason why. So, it's really fascinating information when you read more about how the brain processes this encoded pitch, rhythm, and intonation. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate now how this better alphabet looks. And as I'm doing it, just pay attention to the fact that I'm starting over on every single letter grouping. And that is really the key to making sure that kids can take advantage of the muscle memory, which is the lip, tongue, and teeth finding their way to the sound, but not fall into the trap of that muscle memory having to be started at the beginning and gone all the way to the end to remember what W says or what K says. Okay, hopefully that was clear. I hate that I can't see anybody's faces to know if you're like, oh, or huh. So if it wasn't clear, that'll be a good question for me to follow up with. I'm going to go ahead and sing it now. Now, I don't have a good alphabet train because in a classroom, we have usually the ones that are big and visually accessible and they go across the length of our classroom. Hopefully, you also have that vertical alphabet or a vertical alphabet. I have one on TPT. You don't need to have the one that I made, but they're helpful to have both ways, across and down, because if you use the other musical manipulations on the Secret Story CD, like for instance, the letter run, you know that running across your classroom to go forward and backward at rapid pace is exhausting. So that is where that vertical alphabet can come in really handy. For right now, what I'm going to use is this, which is not ideal, but I grabbed it from my garage quickly because I don't quite know how to show on screen yet, which is a shame because that would have let me show you something better. But this is a good non-example of what not to use, and I will tell you why. First of all, limited bang for your buck. If you can see here, there are only capital letters for each letter sound. Now, the reason that that's not good is, first of all, in books and in print, capital letters are not what kids are decoding. It's lowercase letters for the most part. Second of all, why not kill two birds with one stone? Why not be able to point to the A on my alphabet train up in the classroom? For right now, I'm using this, but again, you'll be using something bigger, better, and across the whole class. But when I'm pointing to that A, why not have the capital and the lowercase a together? Because obviously that's the A. When I point to the capital and the lowercase a next to the apple, and let's say superhero A, that means that's A. That is A. The capital, the lowercase, the whole thing is A. Kids can take in that symbol, that entity, and know that says A. Whether that is the capital A or the lowercase a, they should both be embedded together on the alphabet train. Now, most of our alphabet trains are not guilty of stripping off either the lower or the capital. Thank goodness, because a few years ago they were, especially in pre-K. But what they are guilty of is giving the wrong picture for some of the letters. You will probably see more xylophones out there next to that X than you will see boxes and oxes combined, because is just that's the most likely sound for X, but it's not a pretty picture. Boxes by default can only be so pretty, and an ox is obviously very limited in its aesthetic quality. So at least with a xylophone, you get some nice colored keys. But you got to always keep your eye on the ball. What am I doing this? What is it for? Where am I headed? And the reason you're doing it is not so kids can see an X and go, pretty xylophone. It's so kids can see an X and go when they're trying to read and spell a word. So since the goal of the game is reading and spelling, and everything that is phonics is geared toward transfer of skills to read, transfer of skills to write, we can lose sight of that ball really easily because in a traditional grade specific phonics skill or code introduction with our scope and sequence, we're introducing so little that there is virtually no transfer at all to reading and writing. So I think we do sometimes forget that that's the key piece, because if all we give them is what we're supposed to, which in kinder's individual letter sounds and 10 sight words, there is no transfer to reading and writing. Kids can't even read the, let alone write the, or are, or were, or boy, or her, or should, or she, or any of those other any of those other words that we would constantly encounter. So the transfer kind of gets lost in the shuffle, I think, the earlier the grade level, but it's key. And with the secrets, we bring it back into importance, because with the secrets, kids will see and will have immediate transfer to reading and writing. So everything we want to do goes toward that. which is why not only do the pictures need to match up so that we're not sending kids on a wild goose chase trying to say zzz every time they see an X or every time they see an O, because O doesn't say or can say but O can just say ah or O, or it doesn't say oyster either, even though OI and OY can say oi, just O. Poor little O can only say ah or O by himself. So rather than sending him on a wild goose chase, we want first course of attack to be the most successful. You know, if we were training Marines, we wouldn't give them the third most likely effective tool to try first. We'd give them the most likely effective tool to try first, and then they could work their way out and say, oh, okay, gee, in a vacuum, X can say z in xylophone, but that's like the only word I can think of where it does. So it's not that they don't have to know that, but well, actually, I don't. I've never actually even taught that, but you know, you can work your way down. X could say X-ray in the word X, but again, not the most likely thing to attack a word with. So most likely pictures. The other thing is you want to always make sure, and I really hit this hard last time, see what you sing and sing what you see. Kids have to have the concrete connection from the sound to the symbol, symbol to the sound. Otherwise, kids will know all those letter sounds because they can sing the song, just like they can know all 12 months of the year and they can sing the song. But it will be useless for them because without tying the sounds to the symbols that make them, there is no transfer to decoding those symbols in text or to using those symbols to write the story that they want to tell mixed with a few secrets. So the biggest problem that you could have with the better alphabet is the nature of the beast that are our kids, which is they have the attention span of a gnat like me, and they want to play with their shoe and lick their neighbor. So they're really not interested in, for the 3 minutes it's going to take to sing this song, staring intently at your boring finger as it plops its way across these letters and sounds. If anything, the one thing that they're probably most interested in, if not kicking or licking their neighbor, is to watch you, because you're going to see me in a second do this song and I am going to look fascinating because I'm really going to work my lips, tongue, and teeth, because inevitably that's where this content's going to be stored. That's where kids will pull out the sound for a W or a K or an X or a C. It's going to be coming right out of their lips, tongue, and teeth. Just like when you sing or say, Mary had a little lamb. I don't have to think about the sound that I'm going to make. It's already right there. My lips, tongue, and teeth are following a track that they've been on over and over again. That's the beauty of this earlier developing, easy to access part of the brain. But again, that's also why we have to chop it up into those pieces. I see a lot of folks have just joined us. If you have just joined us, make sure you do catch the first 3 or 4 minutes of this video, because the part about chopping up this song to cheat the brain is key. And you won't know what I'm talking about when I reference that for the next 5 or 7 minutes when I sing this. So I am now going to go ahead and I'm going to sing the Better Alphabet song. What I am not going to do, because I want to finish off the Better Alphabet song with this week and not spread it into next week. So what I'm not going to do is what I typically would, which is tell you these superhero vowels and their short and lazy sounds. The reason that I'm not going to do this is because if I do, it will take up this time for the Better Alphabet. So what you are going to see me do is you're going to see me do the cues for these short and lazy vowels. You will see those kind of going by as I'm doing this. Now, if you use secret stories, then you already know what I'm doing when I go ah, or what I'm doing when I go eh. So that won't be confusing to you. But if you don't use the secret stories and have no clue what it is that I'm doing, I am going to save that for probably the next secret live after we do some Q&As to get caught up, because there have been so many questions that I haven't gotten to get to over the last few. So these are the short and lazy sounds you're going to hear me reference when I'm doing the Better Alphabet song, and I promise that I will talk about those another time. And in the meantime, I will put a link in the description of this video to the vlog where I actually teach you all those. So if you want to fast forward a little bit, get a heads up on what it is I'm doing now and get it before the next secret live, you're welcome to do that. And that way you can start tossing them out to your kids if you don't have the secrets, but you want to start capturing sounds fast. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start this. I'm going to start. Now, again, keep in mind, this is not the same as the big train you have. And also it's too small. So if I were in a real classroom, this would be crazy to think my kids could focus on something this little when there's so many. But for us, it's perfect. So here we go. A says ah, 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 but it can also say a. Now I am going to stop there. I'm not going to stop all the time, I promise, but I'm going to stop right there just because I want to make a point to let you know that there are some letters with more than one sound. when a letter by itself can make more than one sound, you will see those made in the better alphabet, but you will see the most likely sound it makes first. Now, for the vowels, obviously it's a toss up. So there's really not a most likely sound that the vowels are going to make because, they come together with other letters and still do entirely different things. But when they're by themselves, they have their short and lazy sound, or they can say their name. And the short and lazy sound, I'll at least tell you that much tonight, is what they do as superheroes when they don't want anyone to recognize who they really are, because they're the envy of all the other letters and no one can know that we have superheroes in our alphabet. So they have these short and lazy disguises that they'll wear. Now, every other letter that you see me make more than one sound on, and you'll see me do it with C, and you'll see it with G, you'll see it with Y, those are letters that have more than one sound, but there is one that's more likely. So the one that I make first when I'm singing this song is the most likely sound. It's the one we want kids to attack first when they're dealing with text. If it doesn't work, like C saying k, if the k doesn't work, then they can try the s, because that's the next most likely backup that we want to just roll right off the tip of their tongue. Okay, so here I go again. Keep in mind, I've already told my kids, and I should have done it with you, that I'm looking to give an eye glue and a muscle mouth award, and it is boys against girls. And boys, yesterday the girls creamed you with both. They won eye glue, they won muscle mouth, and you guys had to line up last at lunch, and you got to pick recess equipment after most of the good stuff was gone. So come on, boys. I know you can do it. Let's really make the girls work hard today to try to beat us. And so that eye glue means eyes glued to my finger. We talked a lot about that in the last Secret Sunday Live. And muscle mouth means you're working your lips, tongue, and teeth as hard as you possibly can because you don't want to be the only kid in the class with puny little lip, tongue, and teeth muscles at Christmas time when everybody else's are giant. So really let the kids know this is not where we're going to keep all these letters and sounds. It's going to go in here. And you got to really work your lips, tongue, and teeth. Okay, back to our singing. B says b b b b b b b, and C says k k k k k k, but it can also say s s s s s, and D says d d d d d d d d d, and E says eh 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 eh, eh, but it can also say e e e e e e e e. I'm going to stop one more time and mention something about the vowels. The vowels have those little cues, and you saw me do this one for E. The little cues are because they can't be captured with muscle memory. So even though I say that there are no secrets for the individual letters and sounds, because when the letters making the sound, it should hallelujah. When K says cuff, thank gosh, all's right with the world. It's only when letters come together and don't do what they should that we need to know the secret about why. So because of that, I tell the kids and the teachers that all the letters, when they're by themselves, you're going to grab with muscle memory. And that's not really true because you cannot grab the vowels with muscle memory. I think I touched on that last week with there's not enough going on for you to see and discern and then articulate what I'm doing to get those sounds. When I say b, you can tell. But when I say ah or eh or I, you really can't tell. Kids are very poor with their auditory discrimination and their articulation ability. So it's a landmine. And that's what I think I really hit hard last week. So, all of that to say, these cues that you see me doing are key. You need to make sure for those vowels, if you don't already know what those cues are, ah or eh, that you look at the vlog for the link that I'll put in this description so that you can find those. Those cues are the only way kids are going to find those sounds quickly, fast, and easy. You don't need to do motions for the other letters because, as I also mentioned last week, if you're flapping your arms for the alligator and if you're flapping your wings for the eagle or whatever you're doing, all you're going to do is make it even harder for kids to focus and keep their eyes glued to your finger. And we want to give them every possible support to keep them focused that we can. And watching my neighbor, eat like an alligator mouth is going to be very fascinating to me. So we don't want any distractions that we can avoid. Okay, I'm going to start up here. F says and G says g g g g g g g g g, but it can also say j j j j j j j j, and H says and I says this is going to be hard holding this. But it can also say I, and J says j j j j j j j j, and K says and L says la 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 la. I don't like to sing because that's just hard and it's just weird. I touched last week about the ILA reversing itself on the the shadow schwa, which is the slight that comes out after words like Bob or mom. There's a little sound, not baba or mama, but just this little tiny So that whole kind of argument about the way that we need to make these sounds has shifted. Not to the point where you can have a big popping out, but to the point where something minimal is fine. Because when you cut off so rapidly, or make the letter sounds in a foreign way to the ear, you cause some issues with the ability to blend. Um, You'll also see that when we get down to R. I'll be making that point again for a different reason. Uh, M says and N says Now I know some teachers just like go or but again, without having that release, that n, it's hard for kids to hear it. Not just the difference between m and n, but it's also hard for them then when they're trying to figure out the sounds to hold on to it, because no one goes when they're singing. So the singing requires that you hold the pitch or the tune. And in order to do that, you have to have a little bit of a release. So again, just keep it subtle and you're fine. O says but it can also say oh. Now, somewhere along before this O, you've started to have at least 3 boys look at their neighbor, poke their friend's shoe, or whatever. So throughout this entire thing, I am doing these redirects, but I'm trying to do it in a way that doesn't take attention off of the singing, because I don't want to stop and start the song like I'm doing with you. So I used to have a big stick, and I know this sounds really bad, but it's not bad. It was a very big, it was one of those like a pool stick, you know, the kind that like a big giant foamy thing that like floaty kind of a stick. And I would poke the kids that I wanted to get back in with us so that we could win. So I might say something like, while we're singing, M says, oh my gosh, I said 3 boys that are going to lose their eye glue. N says, O says, I see 2 girls who lost their muscle mouth. P says, so I'm just trying to do little, minute, subtle, subtle, as subtle as you can be when you're poking them with a stick, but minute little redirects, because I really want to amp up that competition between boys against girls. And what I really want is no one tuning out for more than at least a letter or 2 at a time. Because if they tune out, they won't get the benefit of this repetitious motor memory that we're trying to practice, and their eyes won't be able to connect with the sounds. And singing it means nothing. It's kind of like secrets and letters. Letters by themselves don't do anything. Secrets by themselves don't do anything. It's a combination of both that makes them power up. Same thing with the song. You know, the letter sounds don't do anything without the letter symbols, and the letter symbols don't do anything without the letter sounds. It takes the connection between both for learners to really be powered up. So that's why it's just so critical not to allow any kind of bad habits to be happening when you're singing this song. Basically, I used to tell my kids, this is like fire drill time. When we do the Better Alphabet, we're going to do it twice a day, every single day. And that way you guys will have all of those individual letters and sounds by Halloween, and maybe a lot sooner. So the reason that we're going to do that every single day, twice a day, is because we want to make sure we have all of those sounds so that we can add the secrets to it, and then we can really start reading and writing up a storm. But you've got to make sure that your eyes are glued on my finger, and it's like fire drill time, which means we are like little soldiers. We are so totally focused and attentive, and it's out of our nature to be so, which is why I call it fire drill time, because that's another time they're out of their nature in terms of being so focused and such good listeners and so quiet and attentive. Okay, I'm gonna keep on going. P says and Q says quack, 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 quack. Now, on the Better Alphabet that I made, I actually put a QU. I put this, on the Better Alphabet song that I made, the vertical chart for, and I'll put the link to that as well in here. I have the Q and the U secret in place of the letter Q, just like I have the sneaky Y in place of the Y, and I have the superhero vowels in place of the vowels, so that they are already kind of embedded into that entire alphabet. You can make that yourself with using your existing alphabet and just taking your secret stories posters that are specific to one letter. So for example, the U, you could put this right up above the U in your alphabet. You could take the sneaky Y and put the sneaky Y poster right up above the Y in your alphabet. The QU shows a Q and a U, and the secret is that Q never goes anywhere without his best buddy U. And together they, oh, I saw someone ask me to increase my volume. So, oops, hopefully you can hear me now. Let me see if I can make it better here. Okay, can you guys tell? Can you hear me now before I keep on going? It says it's at a very low volume, which is odd. Okay, if you can hear me, say yes. Hello, 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 hello. Can everybody else hear me okay? Okay, and I can't tell if I'm scrolled down there. Yes, okay, I'm gonna keep going. It might be your phone, Helen, I'm not sure. I've never changed my volume before, so, okay. Sorry, I'm not sure if it must be your phone. Okay, so back to what I was saying about this. On your alphabet that you're using in your classroom, you can either put your posters that are specific to one sound in there, or you can use, like I said, the one that I have where they're embedded together. But with the QU, I never really have to tell that secret that Q never goes anywhere without his best buddy U, and together they make one sound, which is qua. And the reason I never have to tell it is we sing it. So it's just not a secret that ever comes up because it's already known, it's already there. Probably because even when we're singing the song, we're actually changing it too. Q, you says qua, 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 qua. So if, and the other thing you can do, by the way, if you don't have secret stories, but you want to make sure that you are giving kids the sound cues actually most likely to make, go ahead and take a permanent marker and just write a U after the Q. And just tell kids this letter is like L-M-N-O, but it's real. Q-U. And it actually does say qua, because it's such a wild goose chase for kids to have to remember and use up time and space in the brain to say, I need to put a U after the Q in the word quarter or in the word queen or in the word quack. That's not something that's requiring any memory space because there will always be a Q after a U if you're writing in English. Now, obviously, if you're looking at countries like, Qatar, if you're looking at kind of a name, then anything goes with names. But when you're writing words in English, and I actually, this was a realization for me when I was doing second grade gifted. I was actually just covering a teacher's class and they were studying for a spelling test. And I heard a couple of kids say, we have to remember to put a U in the word quarter. And I just thought, what a dumb thing to have to remember. Like with all the other stuff those poor kids had to remember for a spelling test that actually was pretty hard, that was just not worthy of any extra thinking, because anytime their chubby little hand is making a Q, they should just keep it moving into a U because they'll never make a Q without a U. And together they make one sound, which is qua. They'll also never see a Q without a U. And together they say qua. Now, again, I've got to be careful not to say never because I said that once and a teacher said, there's a country, it's Qatar, and there's no U. But, again, that's the fringe. These are best betting odds for Las Vegas, and these are pretty good bets. Izzy, no. It's my crazy dog. R says and S says and T says and U says but it can also say you, and V says and W says whoa, 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 and X says and oh, I just realized it says all of these together. Y says but it can also say E or I, or E, and Z says and now I know my letter sounds, and so my song is done. Now, that's what you're going to do every single day, twice a day, and it takes 2 weeks to 2 months. You're not looking for check-off efficiency. It's because, remember, it's always about transfer to reading and writing. I know in the real world, the front door world where we can't breathe underwater, it's not about transfer to reading and writing. It's about our assessment that requires a little check mark next to every single letter. But that's when your best goal is, my kids are good letter makers and they know all their letter sounds. Our goal is not that. Our goal is not at all to say, I have a check mark next to every single letter sound. Our goal is, what do you have under your belt to bring to the table to use to write the story you want to tell, or read the book you really love, or the lunch menu, or the road sign, or anything else that's around you in text? That's our goal. So since that's our goal, it's okay if kids don't have every single individual letter and sound, as long as they have 10, 12, 14, 13, 9, 15, 22, however many they've got in that day and time, plus a little pocket full of secrets. And that is a lot of stuff to bring to the table to write something, anything about what you like in the fall, or why you eat apples, or what you did at recess, or what you want to do over vacation. That's always the goal of the game. What do my little soldiers have in their little knapsack that's going to get them where they need to be, and make it the most likely possible that they'll be successful and have something to use when they take that hill. And that's really a great analogy. If you really think of, the tasks that are woven throughout the course of our day, which of course are reading and writing across the day, starting in kindergarten, really starting in pre-K, we're doing shared reading, we're doing shared writing, we're looking at text everywhere. And as long as we're taking those hills, we've got to arm our soldiers to have something to take those hills with. Because the goal of the game really isn't just, um, you know, you have a harmonica and a backpack with some bubble gum in it, because that's not going to help that soldier on that hill. What's going to help the soldier on that hill is to be armed with as much as he can get. That's the most likely thing that those that he's going to need, or for kids purposes, that those letters are likely to say, that those words are likely to have in them, that th, not just the t, that the sh for the word she, not thinking it's he. So it's about arming them, equipping them with more and more and more and more, every day. And normally you couldn't do that, because again, in the front door world that I like to talk about, this higher level processing area in the brain, when we try to beat our way through that door, there's a reason we go so slow. And it's because there's only so much capability kids have to make sense of just random abstract sounds and symbols. But when we're going through the back door and everything we're doing is making sense on one level, maybe not on the level that we need to use it to read or write, but on the level that is ER, IR, and UR are driving in cars and they're terrible, awful, horrible, no good drivers. I keep using the same one today, but so they always slam on their brakes and go, or that OUNOW, play really rough, and somebody always gets hurt and goes, ow! Unless, of course, superhero O is flying overhead, in which case OW will stop dead in his tracks with whatever he's doing, because he's their all-time favorite superhero, and they'll go, oh, 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 oh. So kids are armed, equipped to attack words like glow or flow or slow or blow. Both are needed. Both are going to come in handy. So the fact that they can see this and go, ow, is across the board. The fact that kids would see this, say ow, and then no, and that's why that word's how, is different for every single learner. And that's okay. It's perfectly okay. Just like the kids in your class, when they see this, there will not be a single kid that will not go, but there will be lots of kids who will not look at the word bird and say, oh, I get why it's bird. It's because there's the sound and I understand. So that's bird. Not all kids will be able to take the leap from back door to front door and apply that strategy, but they'll have the strategy, and they'll have this strategy, and they'll have this strategy, and they'll have this strategy. In other words, you'll show it, they'll say it, they've got it. Or you could say the sound and they could identify the culprit that makes the sound. That's what we want, because that way you're not waiting to give different kids different things at different times, and some kids nothing at all, because they take all year just learning their letter sounds. And so then they go on to the next year behind of everything they should have learned this year. That's what we don't want. So we can give equal and open access to everybody for everything as it comes up. Then let the learners decide when they're ready to get out that spoon and eat some of that coleslaw we laid out on the buffet, or try a little bit of that jello, or maybe take a little taste of that licorice. And what will prompt them to do that is your modeling, your constant showing of how the key unlocks the door. Look at the word. Look at this word. Look. Ow. How did I know that word was ow? Or if I'm doing a shared writing. Okay, we got the, how am I going to get the ow sound? Who can tell me what I could use to get the ow sound? Does anybody hear a secret in that word? And that ow sound should prompt them to look at those secret posters that you've got all up on the wall and find the one that looks like the culprit that is saying ow. And then they have their two choices and they can pick one to put down. As far as which one they pick to put down, that choice gets fine-tuned the more they read. And they will read because they can read. And that goes back to what that little guy said in a video way before, when I said he came up to his teacher and he said, I can't turn it off. And she said, what are you talking about? And he said, I can't turn it off. The reading, I can't turn it off. I keep seeing words and there are secrets everywhere. And I just keep reading them and I can't turn it off. And that's what we want. We want kids to see secrets everywhere. And before they even know what hit them, they're already reading it. That's where we get kids taking in that value of time with text that we're not necessarily responsible to be showing them and doing with them, but text that's just everywhere in their environment. We want kids to say, I can't turn it off. I see secrets everywhere and I just keep reading them. Just like we keep reading. We can't not read. We can't turn it off. So, all of that to say, hopefully, this will kind of get you armed and ready to start looking at that Better Alphabet song in a new light as you not only do it, but as you also see why secrets need to happen simultaneously. Because again, the value, the bang for the buck with those individual letters is minimal if you don't power them up with secrets too. Only if you know secrets and letters could you read the word ba-er-da or ba-oi or ow. So one without the other doesn't do anything, but both together, wow, incredibly powerful. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to start answering some questions. I did want to tell you one thing I saw in a Facebook post, because if you ever see things like this, please say something, because it drives me nuts and I try not to get involved. And if you know me, you know this. It literally, I'm going to have an ulcer at some point because I see things and I so much want to toss something in, but I feel like if I do, it's not appropriate, so I don't. But I saw something in a forum yesterday and it was saying how you should only teach, and this is about spelling, but it was talking about 6 and 7-year-olds. So and it was saying you should only teach spelling patterns one at a time, because if kids get more than one, and by spelling pattern I think they mean chunk, they mean phonics pattern, because they were talking about I think they were talking about the a sound, like the different ways to get a, like a-I, ey, mommy e, but they weren't using those terms because they weren't talking about it with secret stories. And they were saying, yeah, you only want to teach that, and I saw this repeated in like multiple things. Yes, I agree. Only one at a time. I agree. Kids can't handle more than just one at a time. Maybe just even like one every week or two until you start seeing that they know that one, and then you can teach another one. Now, here's my 2 cents on that. How can you use one spelling pattern for a week? What are you going to do with it? What do you do with the spelling? You have one spelling pattern. What will you do over the course of the week that has any value whatsoever with that spelling pattern? You have to have other things to put with the spelling pattern in order to actually get some mileage out of the spelling pattern. And it's that mileage, that reading and that writing experience that's really going to fine tune that spelling pattern. So it's kind of like I was laying awake in bed last night trying to figure out what would be a good analogy. And the only thing I could think of was numbers. Imagine if you just focused or just gave kids one number a week. What are you going to do with a 4? Just a 4. You know, a 1, a 2, or a 5, so you can't subtract. You can't add. You can't look at things sequentially as they increase or decline and decrease in value, because all you have is a 4. And a 4 in a vacuum means nothing. A 4 is only relevant if you understand a 3 and a 5, because you have to see where the 4 fits. And then to use the 4, to become a skilled 4 user, you have to use other numbers in relation to the 4 so that you really get a handle on this three-dimensional idea of what a 4 is. When I subtract it from 10, I get 6. When I add it to 10, I get 14. If I subtract 4 from 4, I get nothing. So the only way 4 really starts to take shape in your head is in relation to its like content, which are numbers. And the only way these patterns, these individual letters, or in the case of that face group, spelling patterns, the only way kids actually kind of form their awareness of what they are, what they're for, and then a way to use them is in relation to other pieces of the code that they can then put together, like a recipe for a cake, and actually make something with it, or take it apart and put something else together that they want to say and make something with it. So to teach, just to intentionally want to divvy things out one piece at a time that only work together, it really is like giving your kids one puzzle piece on Monday and telling them, here, go play. And then on Tuesday, you give them another puzzle piece and say, here, go play. And we're talking, this is a 100-piece puzzle. Now, what are they supposed to do during that day when they have only one piece? And even the next day when they have 2 pieces or 3 pieces or 14 pieces, there's 100 pieces in this puzzle. They're going to have a tough time twiddling their thumbs for an hour trying to figure out what the heck to do when they don't have anything to do it with, which is put the puzzle together with the other pieces. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but the difference between front door and back door is I understand those teachers' perspective. It's hard to teach abstract learners spelling patterns. They are random, they are boring, and we don't like them, and they don't like them, and they don't stick, and you have to say them 1,000 times, and then they still forget. And the work you're doing to practice them are all skill-based and don't have anything else to add to it, so they're not really enjoying the writing and the reading that they're doing with them. So it's like pulling teeth. But what they don't understand is if you go through the back door, you don't have to pull those teeth. You can toss out all kinds of spelling patterns in all kinds of ways across an entire instructional day, and they're just grabbing them in 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 warp speed time. And then what they do with those is up to them, how they're ready to perceive their use, their value, how they're ready to connect them with the text in their environment. That's something we push. That's something we don't control, and that's something we don't have expectations over. Again, it's a buffet. We're not going to be hurt or offended if you don't eat everything on my buffet. I wouldn't expect you to. But I do want to make sure you have everything you could possibly need, given that I don't know what you have an appetite for or how fast you're going to eat. So I want to make sure it's plentiful. And I also want to make sure you know how to get it, where it is, what it looks like. And that's where you're modeling. And you're always telling secrets, and you're always having the kids retell the secrets, and you're always having the kids say the sounds and do the actions, because even the kids who haven't transferred its use yet love to do all of those other things I just mentioned. And if at the end of all of that, you're connecting it to the word they can read with it, you're using that key to unlock something they're trying to spell. Do that enough times, let other kids do that. It's a part of your day, and the connection starts to take hold. Really doesn't take long at all. But doing it that way does let you give kids access to so much more. And that's really the key. More, 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 more. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm just going to answer some questions. Why is glow glow? Okay, I might have skipped something there. Okay, let me see. Katie, is your book available separately? I just found out I will be teaching transitional kindergarten next year. And then I see why it's glow glow. Okay. Well, Kelly, the book is available separately, but you don't want that. I think that a difference in cost is about $15 or $20 for the posters with the book. I wish they'd stop selling the book separately, actually, because for the extra, whatever it is, I think $15 is the difference between the book and the least priced kit, which is book, posters, and CD. You want to have those extra posters, even if they are, I mean, you can, first of all, you can get them the smaller ones, and that's perfect, because if you're even if you're going to be traveling, you can do all kinds of things with this size. Although if okay, transitional kindergarten, so you're not traveling. Transitional kindergarten, actually, you don't even want that size. You want those same big posters, and not even just in transitional kindergarten, in pre-K. There are a couple key folks that I can, if you email me, I can put you in touch with, because they have just rocked it in pre-K. I mean, like, gotten through half the secrets. They can absolutely do all those individual letters and sounds. But the first thing you're going to see in pre-K that you don't see now, and TK for sure, but pre-K even, is once kids have access to all those individual letters and sounds, which again, they'll have in 2 weeks to 2 months, they're going to start noticing words like the and her and she. And they're going to start saying, hey, how come that doesn't do what it's supposed to do? And that's your perfect toss out a secret. So I know right now you don't have a lot of 4-year-olds clamoring around you wanting to know about sneaky Y, but when they think that Y is supposed to say yeah and it doesn't, it is akin to them thinking that you're supposed to give them cake and you forgot. So just like they're very quick to say, hey, you said we were supposed to do this. You said that who the line leader is, who the line leader was, who's supposed to be the line leader before he got fired. Kids keep such perfect track of everything you say, and 4-year-olds are no different. So the only reason they're not hounding you now for this stuff that they don't need is because they don't know enough to know that it isn't looking right. Once they see that the sounds that they do know from that better alphabet are contradicted in things you're showing them when you're reading stories, that's when they start asking questions. And I would say that probably at least half of your TK class, you'll get through at least 10 secrets with them. And then add to that all those individual letters and sounds, and think of the compounded acceleration that they begin to have as they're putting that together every day, the next day, the next day, the next day. Your kindergarten teachers will come back and kiss you if you can deliver kids who have had this kind of exposure. So, and you're already telling stories, so tell a secret story. You're already singing songs, sing a secret song. I mean, you're already dramatizing things, and you're already doing lots of motions and movement, so do secret motions and movement. Just do what you're already doing anyway. It's got a little golden nugget buried inside of it. The kids that find that gold get to keep it. The kids that don't are at least closer to finding it the next year. So hit it the same way you would in kinder. That was actually the topic of my email this week. That was a little bit different, but a teacher that went from first grade to kinder and wasn't sure what to do because she'd always done first grade. Secrets worked perfectly for her there because that's the grade where you have to start teaching those patterns. Kindergarten, she had no idea. Should I slow down? Should I stop? Should I wait? Should I have an acclimation period? And so she didn't do anything. She just jumped right in and figured, well, I can't hurt anything. So I'm just going to do it the way I always do it, see what happens. I can always temper it as I go. And I've never seen a video like the one she sent me. I've never seen anything like that before. So if you haven't seen it, you can find it in your email blast. It is just remarkable. And if you don't see it there, I think it's pinned to the top of my Facebook page because she got her reading scores, but we're waiting to get her map testing, and I wanted to add it to that. So just jump in, jump in, and then kind of temper it as you go. And I know I skipped around a little bit here. Okay, I'm going to go back here, add into the secrets, and I'm just going to grab my glasses, trying to add the secrets to the end of the Better Alphabet song. You know, there have been some teachers that have done that where they added the secrets to the song. I no longer say do or don't do anything because I am so floored by some of the stuff teachers do that are amazing, and I never thought of it. So there was another teacher that I saw that did that in a group. Just be careful because that song is long. And the other thing to be careful of is when you're doing that song, it's usually the first couple weeks to first couple months of school, which means they don't yet know the power that they're gearing up to have with the secrets and those letter sounds. So they're just starting to experience the idea that things are making sense when they look at words. So if you make the song too long by adding secrets to it, um, sometimes it can go a little overboard. So that's really why the other songs on the CD are there, because the other songs, the other tracks on the CD are not even close to being a song. They are flip it, flop it, twist it, turn it, every which way to Sunday, so that kids know that they know that they know it. And the songs, or no, sorry, the tracks on the CD give kids a chance to manipulate all of those secret patterns and go from sound to symbol, symbol to sound. So that's really what they're for. And I think my gut would tell me that that's the better way to play with the secrets rather than make what kids are going to feel like is already a long song, which is Better Alphabet, into an even longer one. Now, having said that, like I said, you could surprise the heck out of me because it's been done before. But that would be my thought, in looking at how kids take in that song length. And then also in the fact that you're probably not going to be doing that song at this time of the year with the whole class because they should have those sounds intact. Okay. So it serves the rehearsal. Okay. Brought up last week, some of my kiddos can start singing at any letter, and my most young and immature babies are still start. Yeah, sing and again, that's your most young. Stacy had written at the some of my kiddos are singing at any letter I can start, and they pop out the sound, and some of the more immature ones are struggling with the ability. My guess is if I came in and watched your class, that those little tiny ones, the ones that are babies, are the ones that are sucking on their finger or their neighbor's finger or licking the carpet, and that's interrupting that taken. If they look like the kids in the link that I posted to the description of last week's video, those pre-K kids, or those TK pre-K class that look like little West Point soldiers. I mean, their eyes were just like following every single thing that the teacher did when she was singing that. If they look like that, that connection's strong. So they will pop. I mean, I've had kids don't speak English and had severe speech impediments. And that's really where I hit the 2-month mark, because there were 2 kids I've had in all the years I've taught. And I've taught in migrant community schools. I've taught in where the bulk of your kids are foster care kids. They're coming and going. I mean, I've taught everywhere you can imagine when I was in South Florida and in other states, but South Florida is where I got the bulk of some real eye-opening experience. You shouldn't have anybody that's lagging behind at this point unless it's because of the reasons said. And those are very valid reasons. So don't feel badly if you're thinking, oh, that's true. That my kids, I do have a couple that fall asleep, or I have a couple that get tired, or even just a couple that hang back and then they do this. Hey, says, oh, say, blah, blah, blah. That won't work. That's like taking a tennis lesson and you're swinging your racket like this and you're trying to get muscle memory built in. Motor memory, muscle memory, teaching the body intelligence, that requires a fluid, fully committed motion from beginning to end with follow through. So it's got to be. So I know I harp so much the eye glue part because that's usually the kid's weakest point to focus and pay attention. But that doesn't take away from how important the muscle mouth is, because kids sometimes will not jump in 100%. And if they don't jump in 100%, those muscles are not going to be active enough to hold the sounds. So with what you're saying about some of those little more immature babies not being able to start right on a letter with the sound popping out, that's because it's not in their muscles. And if it's not in their muscles, then they got to really maybe push those muscles a little bit harder when they're singing. Sometimes I would even say, and this doesn't sound right, but I might say something like, okay, if you're doing this right, that means you look even, and I used to say the word dumber because it just worked better for me to say, you're doing it right if you look dumber than me when I'm trying to make these sounds, because I look crazy. So then I switched to, if you look crazier than me. But the problem is I don't want them to purposely try to look crazy, because then they're like doing weird things. I just want them to know that I know I look weird. And if they look weirder than me, that's a good thing. So I just tell them, you got to really, 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 really work those lips, tongue, and teeth. And that is not something a lot of kids will naturally do. So equal weight on muscle mouth and on eye glue. And then Stacy, once you do that for about a week, let me know. And if you're still not sure, videotape your class. I won't post it if it's got kids' faces, but have someone tape your class or set up your iPad when you're doing the singing, because I will bet, because this is what inevitably happens when I walk in, I will bet that I can pick out the kids who aren't able to pop out the letter, which is kind of a fun thing, just to kind of show the power of that eye glue in that muscle mouth. Okay, I made it. Oh, okay, good. Yay, I'm happy you made it, Louise. Things are becoming more clear. I hope so. Because I think as a teacher, I hated to be told what to do. Hated it. I wanted to know, why am I doing what I'm doing? And then I'll figure out how to get there myself. Because if you tie my hands, I just get bored. And I don't like to be bored. So I couldn't stand to be told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, what it's supposed to look like. I just wanted to know the method to the madness. Like, tell me why this is important, and then I can play with it. But I do think with the Better Alphabet song, it is such an anomaly compared to what in early grades, especially, we do with music, that almost every instinct we have that's natural and that's correct when using music is wrong when it comes to the Better Alphabet song, because we don't appreciate why. We don't know. I know I didn't until I read about it, why songs take why things come in so quickly through songs. And if we know why they come so quickly to kids with songs, but we know why they also go to autopilot and seem unusable for a purpose, then you can sit back and get crafty and think, well, if I know that I want to take advantage of this quick route to get kids who don't even know how to find the bathroom to be able to sing like all 12 months of the year and all 7 days of the week and all these letter sounds, I want to figure out how to get around the fact that once they do it, they won't be able to use it. So, by understanding the way the brain works, that's how I've kind of crafted the troubleshooting of eye glue muscle mouth. But if you understand how the brain works, you can take everything I'm saying for what it's worth, keep your eye on the ball, which is using this to read and to write, and then take your own path. And that's why I always tell teachers, video, because what you do, I learn so much from. These chats alone, half the time, have as much or more valuable information than I say. So, anyway, so all I want to do with videos like this and everything else that I talk about with the secrets, because it's a new way of thinking and it's based on a lot of the new research, is just give you that concept, and then you take it into your own pot of expertise and you stir it around, and then come up with your own ways of just making it bigger, badder, stronger, and better. Um, okay. Da, 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 da. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Holly. Hi, Pauline. Hi, Louise. And Trish. Thank you for your explanation. Makes it better. I need to learn the song. Yeah, the good part about the song is you don't have to learn much, because if you know, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, that's really all it is. It just starts over on every single letter. So you can kind of make it up as you go, really, as long as you know those vowel cues. Ah, eh, eh, ah. As long as you've got those, and you can see how to troubleshoot those on that blog that I will put the link in. I've got lots of links now. I know I'm putting into this post when we're done. Um, then you can just wing it. So I even tell the teachers, you don't have, when they do get upset about hearing me go buh, 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 and they want to go buh, 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 that's fine. Turn it off. You do not need to play it with the CD. As a matter of fact, there's no other part of the CD tracks that you will use a CD with, because I just give you those examples. And when I hit the music piece, the rest of the music, I'll talk a lot more about that. But the music is just a tool to increase automaticity. So these aren't pretty songs with beautiful instrumentation that we do a dance to. So you can totally do it your own way. And there are so many teachers who have, they've taken my letter runs and put it to Indiana Jones, the Jedi, Frozen. Someone else did feelings, nothing more than feelings. I don't even know how they got their kids to know that song. I don't know if they just play it while the kids are working or what, but like the tunes of the 70s. So there's all kinds of things teachers do that they kind of take and run with, and that's the goal, especially with the music, because it's made for you to just use and make your own, and then do it when you're not in the classroom, when you're at a pep rally but you've got to sit there and it hasn't started yet, when you're at the lunchroom and the line's backed up and you're stuck there with your class. Those downtimes are the perfect time to just toss out a few little musical brain teasers. So jump in and don't worry about how to do it the way the C sounds. Okay. Great to see the song in action after reading about it. Yay. And then the yes, Kate, is your book available separately? That's the question I skipped, Kelly. And I answered it. So anyway, you've got that information. You can find that on the website. The book is separate, but again, get the kit. And my point about if you were looking for just the book, if you were just a parent, or if you weren't transitional pre-K, but let's say a teacher on a cart, still for the extra $15, those posters are worth it. If you just make a book out of them that kids can take and share and use, or can be a treat to do as a take-home alternate, or just hold on to them or give them to a teacher who can borrow them until you're back in a classroom. I even tell parents, if you're going to buy the book, if you can add the extra 15, give that to a teacher in the classroom and then loan her your book so that she can kind of start supporting this there too. There's just, it drives me crazy because the cost difference, it costs so much to make those posters. So for the $15 difference, you want those extra posters. Otherwise, you have in the book, and I actually have them this time because in the last, when I tried to do this and they weren't there and I felt like an idiot, it was because they had been cut out on purpose, probably by me. And I didn't realize it because I grabbed the book from the office. But you have these cut apart cards in the back of your book of all the secrets. So while you can't copy them because of copyright, and that's again what that's what these are for. These trifolds are for that. But you can't copy these, but what they are is your set of visuals. So it's nice to have a second set of visuals because you will ultimately need probably more than one set, especially if you make like a portable reference out of this using these cards. It's really handy to have another set for that $15 difference. Okay. Going back up here. I'm not sure about the glow. Why is glow? I don't understand that question, Danielle. Other than to say that, and I don't know, maybe you missed that part about OUOW, play rough and always gets hurt, and they play rough and get hurt and say, ow! But flying overhead of OW, and you can see him pointing, is their favorite all-time superhero ever. He is their all-time hero. And anytime he flies by, OW will stop dead in their tracks. Anything they're doing, they'll stop dead cold and they'll always point up to him and go, oh, in the hopes that he'll fly down and say hello. So what that is it's just a quick, easy way to give kids a heads up on, if this doesn't work, here's something else you can try. So if ow doesn't work, next thing out of your pocket, oh. And that's so critical for, kids to make that transition in words like glow, blow, flow. So that's why glows glow, if that was your question. And if it's something else and I'm missing it, just let me know. Okay, yes, it does, but you also have to have the posters. Okay, yes, thank you, Tara. That's true. You have to have those posters. I assumed that you were asking because maybe you had the posters from before and then you lost them. But yeah, never would you just want the book, especially if you haven't had the other set of posters before. The OW and Glow are making the long O sound because they stopped playing rough. Yay, yay, Sarah. Okay, so I don't even have to explain. Uh, Posters are a must-have. It's always amazing to me to see how quickly students learn secrets. They teach them to their parents. Yeah, Daniel, they do very quickly. So excited to see that. It is really nice to let the parents in on what's going on. And I'll tell you, I was just talking to a principal the other day because they have some old posters and then some new posters and then some fourth and fifth grade teachers who are going to get posters and they want new posters at the early grades. So they're trying to do a poster shift. And what we were saying is when the whole school's got this going on, or if you're even just across a grade level going on, having those posters up, even in the hallway, is a really cool thing if you have an extra set, because parents will walk through the hallway and they've been hearing this crazy talk like about weird things, especially from kids who don't know what the secrets are for yet. They're just saying things like, we love letters, and they're not saying, and that's because there's an A and a U and an A and a W. They just say wacky, weird things. So parents have no idea what their kids are talking about. And every night they came home and say something else that's wacky and weird. And then they say it's a secret. And then they say they can't tell them, which doesn't always go over very well either. So having him in the hallway means that when Johnny's coming in late or Sarah's mom's walking her in because she needs to tell you something, Sarah or Johnny can point to the one that they see on the hallway and go, look, mom, see, they're the ones that are in love, and go, ah. And it's a super fast way to instantly put a light bulb on for a parent to know, oh, that's what you've been talking about. So it's just an easy, quick way to get everybody on board. And then, of course, kids banter about them because you've told some that other teachers haven't and vice versa. So they're like the cat that ate the canary when they're in the hallway, especially around other classes. Or if you put them up where the lunch kids like have to pay and they're stuck waiting for their food, or where the librarian's checking out books, anywhere where kids are stuck waiting, they're like a perfect conversation starter, and they get kids conversing about the code and increase that visual acuity because, again, these familiar faces are all over the school. So it's just on so many different levels. Those posters are handy, even outside of your classroom. Um, okay, how do I support my advanced first grader whose teacher is not supportive of secret stories? My son is getting confused and has even been chastised in class for saying E, etc. Oh, that's awful. Gosh, that's just awful. Um, well, you could, Danielle, teach him about babysitter vowels because babysitter's no different than mommy E. Same idea. Just like you have to listen to your mom, you got to listen to a babysitter. So just like if mommy's one letter away at the end of a word, she's going to tell that vowel that's one letter away, you say your name. Well, by darn it, if there's a babysitter there, it's going to do exactly the same thing. And that might put the teacher in a funny position in a good way because how was she going to teach him how to read the word making or motor um, or hibernate? How's she going to help him know whether a vowel is going to be long or short if there's no nice, neat little mommy E at the end? So let's say she does teach sparkly E, magic E, or just plain old silent E. Um, and she's thinking he'll get confused if he's talking about mommy E. Well, then what is the plan for a word like making? Because kids have to read that word in kindergarten, not just first grade, but in kinder. They may not have to read hibernate, although it's nice if they can, and it's awfully darn easy if you know those secrets. So I would just be curious if he knows about babysitter vowels, and if she doesn't like, let's say, the mommy E idea, how do you take sparkly E up a notch to make sense in a word where there's no E? How do you take magic E up a notch? And if she doesn't have an answer for that, then the logical outcome would be, well, let's give him a tool he can use that's going to give him the most mileage because he can learn one thing and it applies to everything. And you always want to take the path that is the most concise. So you don't want to add extra steps in the dance if you don't have to. And I've said this in other videos, when you're teaching with the brain in mind, there's good, better, best. Anytime you can put meaning where there otherwise wouldn't be, that's good. So magic-y, sparkly, whatever, that's all better than just nothing. But the best is when you can pull from what kids already understand. And kids already know what you got to do if mom's close enough to tell you. You got to do what she says. If a sparkly thing is close to you, that does not mean anything to a kid because we're not aware. We don't have social and emotional understanding of what to do when something sparkles at us. So you've got to then teach that extra step in order for kids to plug it in. And you might have to teach it a lot of times before kids understand, oh, when something sparkles, I'm supposed to say my name. Not to mention, I've never seen a letter actually sparkle because in books, they're not going to sparkle. So that makes it a little trickier. But every kid knows what you do when mom's nearby. They know that you don't got to do it when she's farther away, like in the word butter. That's why butter's not butter. That's why bitter's not biter because mommy's two whole letters away. She can't reach over those two T's to make him say his name. And it makes it super easy when mommy's got to get out of the house and put a babysitter in charge because they follow the same line of logic, but now they can read anything. And kids have to have a trigger to know which way to go when they see a vowel. Otherwise, they are just good little vowel makers. And we don't want good little vowel makers. We want readers and writers. So again, it's all about, like, from the teacher's perspective, where are you headed with this? What's the goal of the game? What is it for? If the reason you're teaching mommy E or she's teaching silent E is so he can read and write words, then we want to make sure that whatever tools we're giving him, let him read and write the most words with the least amount of effort and time. And I think she'll probably come along once she sees that it's just not six of one, half dozen of another. So between the social emotional connections, tapping into what kids already understand, so you don't have to teach them something new, and then the idea that you want to really maximize the instructional density, get the most bang for the buck out of every single thing you teach. So if I can teach mommy and they already connect what they understand to babysitters as doing just what mom would if she were there, we just killed two birds with one stone. And those birds take care of every single thing a vowel can do in terms of whether it's going to go long or short in a word, which is really, really cool. I call those high leverage phonics skills because they are the ones, sneaky Y, mommy E, babysitter vowels, superhero vowels. They're much more powerful than an AU or an OU or an AR because they're not just sprinkled around like salt and pepper. They're the guts of every sentence. There's going to be a word with a Y or with a vowel. Every word's got a vowel and you got to know which way to go with it. If you don't secret, then you have to at least know, should I go long or short? So great question. And I would love for you to follow up with me. I would love to know how she, how that's perceived. I think she'll probably be really receptive once she understands the method to the madness, so to speak. Um, Parent here. Oh, that's the same one. Sorry, Danielle. I saw tear something. I hate to hear that, Danielle. Yeah, I hate it too. So sad to see. But just keep in mind, teachers are taught to teach kids who can't breathe underwater. So we're taught that the scope and sequence of instruction every year is what dictates the skills they're supposed to have. So, if you get ahead of us and teach something that we haven't taught yet, it could potentially rattle maybe a teacher. It shouldn't, because at the end of the day, again, you can't do anything with four puzzle pieces, assuming that we're all trying to do the same thing, which is read and write. But I think sometimes we don't have our eye on the ball because we're playing with in such a vacuum. Kindergarten teachers have to play in a vacuum. Our front door world gives us 26 letters and 10 sight words, and you can't read or write diddly squat with that. So most of the goal of our game isn't thinking about how can we get kids to read and write. It's about how can we get them to memorize more sight words so that they can get to the level G that they need to be at in order to get the check mark on the box. And then how much can I try to help them so that they don't forget everything over the summer and have to go backward because they don't know their sight words anymore, or they were never really using those individual letter sounds anyway because they didn't connect anything, so they forgot half of those. We're playing a different game sometimes when we're not seeing the bigger picture. So from a parent's perspective, you're coming at it from something that's logical, and you're thinking that it should just make sense, but it's all about perspective, and teachers have different perspectives based on where they view this thing called the code. We always ultimately want the best view, which is the global perspective. We want to see it from every possible angle, and that's such a gift. That's why it's so much fun to do this at the earliest grade levels, because it's a perk we never get. So once we stop trying to figure out how to lug the heavy tank in the world where kids can't do this and they can't do that and they can't do this, that's when we start to go around back and we're not kind of bound by those laws anymore. Kids can have all the individual letters in 2 weeks to 2 months. It doesn't have to take a year. Kids can know the R controlled vowels in 2 seconds and walk right out the door with it. And it doesn't have to come through a workbook page. It can be as simple as you going, poof, it's gone, it's done. We can teach the vowel sounds in 5 minutes because we're not really teaching the vowel sounds. We're just the little old lady here. Eh? Or we're what you say when you don't know the answer to a question. So we're not really teaching vowels. We're just doing something that they can do that happens to land them right in the sound that they need. So these are those backdoor tricks. And that's where I use that analogy, breathing underwater. And again, when you're used to a scuba tank, it's hard to imagine kind of going in a different direction where you don't need it anymore. Uh, Danielle, could you tell him they're really the secrets to help him read? So be careful who he shares them with. Yep. Make them fun. Make them important to kids. He entered Kinner last year, able to pass end of year testing thanks to secret stories. That's awesome. That is awesome. But again, just keep in mind, a lot of teachers are thinking linearly, so he might be ahead. I've had a superintendent one time tell me, could you scope and sequence the secrets? Because our problem is our kids at the earlier grades are usurping the skills that are supposed to be taught the next year. So then the next year's teacher doesn't know what to teach because they've already got sneaky Y, or they already have the R controlled vowels, or they already know the mommy E and the babysitters. And that was supposed to be something first grade got to teach, and kinders are coming in with it. So could you scope and sequence it out so that teachers aren't crisscrossing each other's curriculum? This isn't a curriculum. This is a code. You need all of it to do anything with it. And it is a gift. And every first grade teacher on this forum will tell you, as will the second and the third grade teachers, to have kids that have a depth of ownership with the code, because there's always some story you want to tell as a writer. There's always something fascinating that as a reader you want to pick up and devour. So that's where your focused instructional time would come in. It's wonderful to not have to worry about teaching a Y. That's great. I don't have to tell him the three sounds of Y. He's already on his way, using it, plugging it in, and just maximizing it for purposes that is the goal of our game, which is to read and write. But I think that superintendent, maybe like that teacher, the goal of the game is different. These are the skills that we're supposed to learn as designated by our scope and sequence. Scope and sequence is a good checkoff, but we don't want it to block access to the code that kids need as quickly as they can possibly have it. So if we have a magic way to give it to them, we're not going to hold it off because a superintendent or a scope and sequence says, no, don't let them have that. We never want to put ourselves in between the code that kids need to read and write and the lesson that we're doing for the day. So, okay, Beth, I purchased an extra set of posters and tape word lists from the back of the book on the back of the posters to use as a secret story station station. That's awesome, Beth. That's a great idea. And I know that there are folks that have made books too out of for extra sets. Not, you wouldn't want to take your regular posters to make like little books, but I think it was Tara that sent. I got a picture of, and if you could send me a picture of what you're talking about, Beth, too, because I think I can visualize it. But bound books with extra sets of posters. Just make sure if this is your only set of posters that you're not making it into a book, because you wouldn't want kids to have to flip through the book in order to find what they need to read a word, to write a word. You want it instant and easily accessible. Plus, of course, they couldn't share one book. So just make sure that you have them up. But once you have those anchors on the wall, any extra sets you have are fair game to do all kinds of fun things with. So that is a great idea, Beth, are making extra little stations and books and all kinds of fun things that you kind of come up with those extra pieces. Um, okay, let's see. Hey, Kim. Okay, I always use the ABC boot camp and the letter factory to teach the alphabet before teaching secret stories. I just started using better alphabet. My kids love it. Yay, that's awesome. And all those other tools that you have are great tools. I mean, I saw somebody posted something about the phonics. That's a fun thing to do. I mean, I'd love to again, it's always, you're already doing this, so why not do that? So if you're going to dance, why not dance while you increase your automaticity with a sound symbol relationship? Kids, aren't even recognizing they're doing. They're just enjoying dancing while these things are coming out of their mouth and their eyes are seeing sounds and symbols. So, there's so many things that you can do with all the tools that you have. It's not like, okay, now I'm doing this, I got to throw away that. I mean, if I did have a tank, a scuba tank that I didn't need anymore because I could breathe underwater, I'd probably do. I'd probably make a artificial reef out of it, because then I'm putting it to good use and I can take my ability to breathe underwater and I can swim around and enjoy the beauty of my artificial reef. And I can actually spend a whole bunch of time down there now because I'm not limited by however much air supply is in my tank. So that's a bizarrely weird way of just thinking about how you can play with and use all these things that you've got as tools that you may not use anymore um, as your method to get there, but that you can use to play along the way and just extend it and make it more fun. Okay, and I'm going to wrap myself up now here. They don't have to know the secrets. To know, let's see, where was I? Missed this one. Katie, it's secret to explain both. It's Katie's secret to explain both owl sounds. She's the one who told it. I just followed to try to clarify. When you watch from the beginning, you'll see Katie's explanation. Yeah. Yeah, Sarah's just saying that's one of the secrets. And I have had some folks that do get confused because somebody watched the Better Alphabet song the other day and said, well, so it's incomplete then because it didn't have like the A sound that the others, or the oi sound. The Better Alphabet song, if you don't have all the secrets, then you sometimes think that what we say is as if it's a ceiling or a blanket. Everything should be captured in the secrets that letters do when they come together and don't do what they should. So the Better Alphabet song isn't going to capture the EY, AY, or the oi sound, because that's not something a letter can do by itself. By itself, only E and I and yeah are what Y can say. For the OU or OU, that's a built-in default as well, because there are multiple things that can be said by those patterns, and so they have to also be kind of fleshed out with most likely, next, most likely. So once you know the secrets, some of what I say will, I think, be clearer, because otherwise I know it can sound like there are some holes and I'm leaving some things out, and that's my fault, because I again, perspective, I lose my perspective with who knows what already and who might be coming in from different places with your background and knowledge of the secrets. uh, okay, I just bought it. Do you have a lesson to follow? Your lesson is my lesson. You do your calendar tomorrow, and while you're there, take a notice at the words that have that Y in it. And when kids see those words with a Y and they want to go yeah for, or like the word Saturday, so ata, ra, da, ah, yeah, that calendar is going to give you so many different places to go by tossing out a secret to make something make sense. And if you're looking for the biggest hole in the boat on the calendar, it's probably sneaky Y. So every time you're engaged in anything you're doing already in your classroom, just look for the locked doors where letters aren't doing what they should, and then unlock them with a secret. And you'll find that once you toss a secret out, it sticks. So then kids will be like little pit bulls. They'll grab hold of that secret, and by darn it, they'll find it 15,000 more times throughout the course of that day, in the lunchroom, in the hallway, everywhere. And then you'll start to see things just start teaching themselves, especially if you put them all up. This is why you do want to have every single poster up when you start, because once that ball starts rolling, it's going to take off and leave you far in the dust. But you're going to hold up the process if you are the gatekeeper of who gets what when. So definitely put them all up, light that fire, and then watch it go. And there are 3 episodes of a vlog here on YouTube, and it's called Getting Started with the Secrets, or a secret introduction, I think. And it's a getting started kind of quick cliff notes if you want to watch that for more on what I'm talking about. And last but not least, thanks. They use magic. You don't really like the whole secret, or like the whole secret, don't tell. Secrets are meant to be told and retold. Yep. And retold and retold and retold and retold. They're always there, always constantly coming out and being played with and kind of sucked on by the kids throughout the whole day, um, like little candies. Daniel, I've had teachers get upset at first when they see me teaching both sounds, but most of them come around quickly when they see students problem solving and ready to try another sound. Yeah. And you can do most likely first. I mean, I always, if there is a most likely first, I tell them. So the first thing they're going to say is, ow, for this OUOW, because that is what these guys do. It's like kids in your class. You put Johnny and Fred together, inevitably, someone's going to end up with a bloody nose because those boys cannot keep their hands to themselves. And every kid in your class could tell the sub, they can't sit together, they fight. So that's the most likely thing. The next most likely thing could be that they the classroom. Sometimes they don't fight. Sometimes they get together and are conspiratorial, and they actually will slip out of the classroom when no one's looking and then try to take walks around the school. So that's not the most likely thing they do, but that's another possible behavior that's associated with them. So always when you tell a secret, it's not like you're saying, well, it can do this and it can do this. You're saying, here's what it does, but here's something else you can try. So that's a good question. Exactly. I'm told I don't work ahead. He's now testing fourth grade, reading scepter correctly. That's excellent. My students were receiving intervention with me, but they got it in plenty of time of practice. Okay. And I think I got through most of the questions that I had, which is great. Next week, I'm going to focus on some questions. And then maybe also put that bingo back up again, because I know a lot of us missed that the first time. And I don't have a way to really send that because it's too massive of a file. So I'm thinking that might be a good time to do that as well. But I just want to thank everybody for joining me. I know I did go over, as I seem to always do. I also did do a giveaway last week, but I forgot to say it on the air because by the time I did it, it was over. And then I had a heck of a time scrolling down because I couldn't get to the bottom of the comments without them disappearing. So today is the 27th. So the 27th up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Amy Mitchell. I don't know if did you win before too? I can't remember. Um, but that's my 27th. So I'm not sure if Amy did or not, but if she did, then maybe she'll have a direct thing to go to a teammate. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm imagining that. And I can try to kind of get double check that, but I think that's what it is. So the last week, I can't even remember the winner. I kept her name in the description for a couple days, and then I hadn't heard anything back from her. So I can't even remember who it was. But I'm going to try to do it before I sign off every night. So thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions. You're welcome to shoot them to me in the email, and I will try to get to everything that's always been untapped in past chats, as well as any questions that come in this week. And I hope to see some of you at Title I or at some conferences that are coming up. So thanks so much. Have a great Sunday, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.